Hey, this is Rich Arriaga, and I have another great lesson to you today. It's based on a chapter from, or a couple chapters from the book Psycho-Cybernetics. And basically, the book communicates that you cannot outperform your self-image. So you cannot outperform your self-image. So imagine the picture on the left. This is what many of us are thinking internally. We're thinking that regardless of how we look on the outside, that we're not good enough, we're not talented, we're not smart enough, we're not handsome enough, we're not pretty enough, I don't have the degree. If I have a degree, I don't have the right degree. If I have the job, eventually they're going to find out that I don't belong. The imposter syndrome. Or you might be the picture on the right where it's like, regardless of how physically fit you are, you see yourself as unfit. So the book kind of communicates that from one of the surgeons, says that he had done a lot of surgery on different patients. And sometimes he would see a great or huge change in their personality just by changing some facial feature. And it could have been that their ears are too large, their nose was too big, their lips were a little bit deformed. But he noticed that whenever he did the surgery, a lot of these people would have a massive transformation in their personality. But he also noticed that there were some people who didn't need great surgery, but he did the surgery, or some surgeons did the surgery either way, and that those people didn't change at all. So even though, for example, you had a bump on your nose and we corrected the bump on your nose, you still will feel that, yes, I can see that the surgery changed me. I can see the bump is no longer there, but I'm still not convinced that I've changed. So he realized that the magic was not in the scalpel. The magic was not in doing the actual surgery, but it was something more internal, and this is where the self-image comes into play. So you cannot outperform your self-image. Now, I have another note over here that says every day we have between 60 and 70,000 thoughts. Every day I have between 60 to 70 thoughts a day. 90% of the thoughts that I have today are the same thoughts that I had yesterday. And up to 80% of those thoughts are negative thoughts. They're limiting beliefs. They're disempowering. They're not empowering you at all. They're holding you back. They're thoughts related to why you can't, why it won't work, why you're not good enough, why you're not tall enough, thin enough, wide enough, whatever it is, whatever your excuse is, these are thoughts that we have that are holding us back. They're not the truth. They become your truth because you simply repeat them over and over and over again. So you want to imagine that if I want to change my results, if I want to change the things on the outside, I'm going to have to change on the inside. And that one inside thing is your self-image. You've seen this slide over and over again. So I asked number one, on the left over here, basically it says that, all right, we become what we think about most of the time. If you think you're not enough, if you think you're not good enough, then you become that thing. But if you have the opposite thinking in terms of rather than thinking why it's not going to work, but you start to think why it's going to work, why you have everything, you're fully resourced, why you have everything necessary in order to achieve that next level, in order to achieve the goals that you want, then that'll start to happen. Then you become that person. We act in alignment with our self-image and our imagination. So imagine, for example, that you consider yourself an honest person who does not lie. And I challenge you to say the next week, every chance, every opportunity, every conversation, I want you to lie. Don't tell the truth. You might be able to willfully do that a couple of times, but eventually you cannot maintain that will. So it's not a matter of willpower. It's a matter of that the program inside of you, your self-image of being an honest person, a person who tells the truth, is going to override the attempt of you lying all the time. Now, that's an extreme example, but imagine again, if you're trying to achieve a certain level of success, you want to be successful, you want to have that thing, you want to go on that vacation, you want to have that successful business. But if that's what you're thinking on your intellectual part, the conscious mind, but inside your subconscious mind is the self-image that it's not going to happen, it's not going to work. You have to change the self-image. It doesn't matter what you're saying to yourself on a conscious level, because ultimately what drives your behavior, what drives 96 to 99% of your results, it's what's on your subconscious mind. So the book basically says that your subconscious mind it's a machine. You're not a machine, but your subconscious mind is a machine. And it's a machine that's designed to give you whatever it is that you're thinking about. So it could be a failure mechanism or a success mechanism based on what you think most of the time. So on the right, I mentioned over here, have you ever been hypnotized? Or have you ever seen someone hypnotized? What's the point? What's the context of this question? The context of the question is that the power of hypnotism comes from the power of belief. Whenever you see somebody, for example, who's big muscles and they're hypnotized into thinking that they can't lift these ear pods from the table, if they allow themselves, if they're receptive and they believe that, then it becomes true, even though it's not the truth. Again, the power of hypnotism comes from the power of belief. So my question to you is, are you hypnotizing yourself? What are the things that you're saying to yourself that you believe, even though they're not true, but you believe them to be true? And this again reinforces and reemphasizes that the things that you're telling yourself, they are what you become. If you think you cannot, you're hypnotizing into that belief. So you want to be careful, you want to be mindful, you want to be intentional about what is it that I'm thinking and what is it that I want to believe. I want to be aligned with this new self-image. And through spaced repetition over and over again, you're going to hypnotize yourself into the truth. So you see, it's not, you're not brainwashing yourself into this. You've already been brainwashed to believe these lies. You've been brainwashed to believe that it's not possible for you. Possible for him, possible for her, but it's not possible for you. So you, again, take this lesson. And so my final point over here on this slide over here is like, why not imagine yourself being successful? Why not imagine yourself doing the thing? Why not think of all the reasons why it's going to work as opposed to the opposite? And so that's the spaced repetition that you have to do over and over again. It doesn't happen overnight, but it's not going to take decades or 25 years in order for you to achieve those results that you desire. Next slide. The reason I have these pictures over here, look at that big truck and look at that big train or big plane. The person or the people in these two pictures represent the conscious mind. The big machines represent the subconscious mind. Can you imagine that truck without an operator driving itself? And I'm not talking about one that's controlled in a good way, just basically randomly driving itself. It's going to cause a lot of damage. Can you imagine that plane trying to fly itself? Not programmed to destination, not on autopilot, and eventually it will crash. So the huge machines, whether it's the truck or the plane, represent the subconscious mind. There's a lot of power there. But you are the person in this picture, you are the conscious mind. You have to have your hands on the wheel. You have to deliberately and intentionally say to these devices, these machines, where it is that you want it to go. So the quote I have here by Wallace D. Watto says, "There is a thinking stuff from which all things are made, in which, in its original state, permeates, penetrates, and fills the inner spaces of the universe. A thought in this substance produces the thing that is imagined by the thought. And man," this is an old thing, so people can form things in their thoughts by impressing their thoughts upon formless substance, and they can cause the thing that they're thinking about to be created. What's another way of saying that? That in your conscious mind, if you have this thought and you press it upon the subconscious mind, which is connected to the universal subconscious mind, it'll create. This is something you've always done. You're just not aware that you've been doing it all along. When you wanted that phone, when you wanted that car, when you wanted that house, when you wanted that job, when you wanted that relationship, whatever it is that you wanted, you kept thinking about it, almost at the exclusion of everything else. When it became a burning desire, eventually it happened. So this is really what we're thinking. So again, look at this picture and think about it in terms of, I am the person, the conscious mind, and I have a lot of power available to me, but I have to be intentional. I have to take the thought of what I want, ignore everything else, and focus on that one thing. Focus on the thing that I really, really want, and then start directing it. So you're directing your thoughts. You're not directing the machine. You're directing the thoughts, and the thoughts will basically work with that machine, work with your subconscious mind, which your subconscious mind decides, okay, this is what you want. Let me look for these serendipities. Let me look for these synchronicities. look at the opportunities that are already out there and start bringing them to your attention. And then you need to act on those opportunities. You need to act on those ideas, on that intuition. And then by acting, you'll cause a reaction that'll come back and give you the thing that you are attracting. You are attracting these things by thinking about them, by feeding into them, again, to the exclusion of everything else. So again, another example of thinking that your subconscious is a machine is the next slide. And so again, this is, you've probably seen this on the internet recently, that talks about, here's the most detailed image of a human cell to date. And basically look at, you can see either the mitochondria, you can see the plasma, you can see the cell membrane. You're not consciously controlling these things. Your subconscious mind is controlling these things. It regulates homeostasis, it regulates the normal level of insulin, the normal level of sugar, the normal level of your thyroid stimulating hormone, of your dopamine, of your oxytocin, whatever it is. You're not consciously creating these or controlling these. This is your subconscious mind. So that's why that example of the big truck or the big plane, I think, are good examples where, hey, this thing, this machine that you have available is there available to you, but you want to use it in a way that it's designed to give you the results that you're looking for. It does a lot more than you can imagine, but you just want to be able to figure out, what do I want? Now, how do I figure out what I want? You have to create a target. You have to think about a target. So I wrote to set your BHAG goals, which basically means your big, hairy, audacious goal. Don't set a goal for something that you think you can achieve. Don't set a goal for something that you think that you're worthy of. You're worthy of anything great. So whatever it is, imagine that money's not an option, failure's not an option, people laughing at you is not an option, that you're going to have whatever it is that you want. And imagine that you only have one opportunity to set that goal. What would it be? So set that big goal. And so that's why I wrote over here, the trick is not in achieving the goal, but in establishing the goal. And the reason I wrote that is because you set the goal with your conscious mind. But the achieving of the goal is done by the subconscious mind. So that all you have to do is set the goal. Be very clear on the goal. Be very clear on the details of the goal. Be very clear on what it looks like, how it's going to feel. Imagine, for example, if you want a house, you want to look at a blueprint of the house. You want to basically have an actual copy of the blueprint where you're looking at it on a regular basis. You know how many floors, how many rooms, the size of the room, where each bathroom is. You want that level of granularity when it comes to whatever goal it is that you're trying to achieve. The big, hairy, audacious goal. So setting the goal is an intellectual process done by your conscious mind, but the achieving of the goal is a lawful process. This is done by your subconscious mind. Your subconscious mind says, okay, I understand what you want. I understand it literally, and I'm going to go make it happen. So you don't want to force your subconscious mind to do the work. You don't want to make it do the work. You want to allow it to do the work. So again, look at this and picture the goal. Picture the person that it takes in order to acquire that goal. How does he or she behave? Walk, talk, dress. When they look in the mirror, do they actually see the potential? So remember the first picture where I showed you, you're looking at yourself and you're having these self-defeating, disempowering thoughts. You want the opposite. Now, this is not faking it till you make it, but this is walking in faith and saying, we know when I see this, like the picture over here of the cat seeing the lion, when I see this, when I look in the mirror, I see my actual potential. Now, I may not be there right now, but I know that if I start acting like that person, I'll start to think like that person. I'll start to behave like that person. And before you know it, I believe that I'm that person, and the results will align with the new self-image that you have in place. So you've seen, again, this picture 1,000 times. I use it every time. So again, this is where you are right now. This person will not achieve these goals. You have to look at your future state, your North Star, and just say, okay, what does that person look like? What is it that I want? What is the goal? And I'm going to start today thinking like that person. Then I'm going to start feeling like that person. And I'm going to start acting like that person. And I'll give you an example. That future version of you, you know what they do when they get an inspiration or intuition to do something? They do it immediately. They don't say, I'll do it tomorrow. They don't say, I'll do it later. They say, I'm going to do it today. So you want to start thinking like that person, acting like that person. You know, another thing about that person, when they make a mistake, what they say, they might laugh and say, okay, what did I learn from it? They look at these different opportunities and they just make the best of every situation. So I hope this is helpful. I'm going to stop right there. I'm going to skip this slide. And so again, this is Rich Arriaga. I hope this is helpful. Have a great day.